The British Empire, once a global superpower, left a lasting mark on the world. From the Americas to Asia, Africa, and Oceania, British settlements took many forms. Each type reflected the empire's evolving goals and the diverse environments in which it established its presence. This essay delves into the different types of settlements established by the British during their centuries of colonial expansion. We will explore the motivations behind these settlements, their characteristics, and their lasting impact on the world today. Understanding the distinctions between these settlement types is crucial for comprehending the complexities of British colonial history and its legacy. By examining the political, economic, and social structures of these settlements, we gain insights into the forces that shaped the modern world. Colonies formed the cornerstone of the British Empire. Driven by a thirst for land and resources, British colonists established settlements across the globe. These colonies, often seized from indigenous populations, served as centers of British influence. The earliest British colonies emerged in North America in the 17th century. Jamestown, Virginia, founded in 1607, marked the beginning of permanent English settlement. Soon after, colonies like Plymouth, Massachusetts, and the 13 colonies were established. These colonies depended on Britain for governance and trade. Economically, colonies generated wealth for Britain through raw materials and consumption of British goods. Indigenous populations and enslaved Africans faced forced labor, displacement, and cultural suppression. The establishment of colonies marked a new era in British history, characterized by global expansion and economic exploitation. While colonies focused on territorial acquisition and resource extraction, trading posts represented a different approach to British expansion. Established primarily in coastal areas, trading posts served as strategic hubs for commerce and the projection of British influence into new regions. The East India Company, chartered in 1600, played a pivotal role in establishing British trading posts throughout Asia. From their fortified settlements in India, such as Fort William in Calcutta and Fort St. George in Madras, the company controlled vast trading networks. Unlike colonies, trading posts maintained a smaller footprint, relying on diplomacy, alliances with local rulers, and, when necessary, military force to secure their commercial interests. These posts became centers of cultural exchange, albeit often unequal, as British merchants interacted with local populations. The flow of goods, ideas, and people through these trading posts had a profound impact on both Britain and the societies with which it traded. The establishment of trading posts highlights the multifaceted nature of British expansion. As the British Empire expanded, so too did its need to address crime and social unrest. This led to the establishment of penal colonies for incarceration and rehabilitation. Australia became a primary destination for British convicts after the loss of the American colonies. Between 1788 and 1868, over 160,000 convicts were transported to Australia. They endured harsh conditions and played a significant role in the colony's development. Life in penal colonies was brutal, with forced labor and harsh punishments. However, the system also offered opportunities for redemption and land acquisition. The legacy of penal colonies continues to shape Australian society today, influencing its demographics and culture. Section 5. Protectorates, Indirect Rule, and Local Autonomy. As the British Empire matured and encountered resistance to direct rule in certain regions, it adopted alternative approaches to expanding its influence. One such approach was the establishment of protectorates, territories that retained their own internal governance, while falling under the protection and influence of the British Crown. Protectorates emerged in areas where Britain sought to secure strategic interests, such as trade routes or access to resources, without the administrative burdens and costs associated with direct colonial rule. This approach often involved negotiating treaties with local rulers who retained a degree of autonomy over their internal affairs. In exchange for British protection against external threats, local rulers often ceded control over foreign policy and agreed to cooperate with British commercial and strategic objectives. This system of indirect rule allowed Britain to project its power with a lighter footprint. Section 6. Dominions, the path to independence. As the 20th century dawned, the British Empire faced growing pressure from within its colonies for greater autonomy and self-governance. This led to the emergence of dominions, a new type of settlement that granted a significant degree of independence to former colonies while maintaining ties to the British Crown. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the Irish Free State were among the first colonies to achieve dominion status. These self-governing entities controlled their own domestic affairs, including legislation, taxation, and defense, while recognizing the British monarch as their head of state. The Statute of Westminster, 1931, formally defined the relationship between Britain and its dominions, recognizing their legislative equality and acknowledging their right to secede from the British Empire. The emergence of dominions paved the way for the peaceful dismantling of the British Empire and the transition of former colonies into independent nation-states. Section 7 mandates a new form of colonialism. The aftermath of World War I brought about significant changes to the global order, including the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. This created a power vacuum in the Middle East, which Britain and other victorious powers sought to fill. Under the League of Nations mandate system, Britain was granted control over territories formerly belonging to the Ottoman Empire, including Palestine, Iraq, and Transjordan. These mandates were not considered colonies but rather sacred trusts of civilization, with Britain tasked with guiding these territories toward eventual independence. However, the mandate system often masked continued British control over these territories. Britain exercised significant influence over their political, economic, and social development, often facing resistance from local populations who resented foreign rule. Section 8. Governance and Law, from Crown Colonies to Self-Rule. The governance of British settlements varied widely depending on their type, historical context, and the specific challenges they faced. From the highly centralized rule of Crown Colonies to the gradual devolution of power in dominions, the British Empire exhibited a range of administrative approaches. In Crown Colonies, the British Crown exercised direct control, appointing governors and officials who held significant legislative and executive powers. This system centralized decision-making in London, often with limited input from local populations. As settlements evolved, so too did their systems of governance. Legislative councils, often with limited representation from local elites, were established in some colonies, providing a forum for debate and consultation. The transition to self-governance in dominions marked a significant departure from previous models. Section 9. Economic Systems, Exploitation, and Development. Economic considerations played a central role in shaping the development of British settlements. From the extraction of raw materials in colonies to the promotion of trade in trading posts, the British Empire sought to maximize its economic gains from its overseas possessions. The mercantilist system, which dominated early colonial policy, emphasized the accumulation of wealth for the mother country. Colonies were expected to provide raw materials such as cotton, sugar, and timber to fuel British industries while serving as markets for British manufactured goods. This system often led to the exploitation of colonial resources and labor, enriching British merchants and industrialists at the expense of local populations. However, it also led to the development of infrastructure, such as ports, roads, and railways, in some colonies, albeit primarily to facilitate the extraction and transportation of resources. Section 10. Social Structures, Hierarchy, and Change. The establishment of British settlements had a profound impact on the social structures of the societies they encountered. The imposition of British laws, customs, and institutions, often accompanied by the influx of European settlers, led to significant social and cultural transformations. In many cases, British settlements reinforced existing social hierarchies, empowering local elites who cooperated with colonial authorities while marginalizing or displacing indigenous populations. This often resulted in the loss of land, resources, and cultural practices for indigenous communities. The transatlantic slave trade, a brutal system of forced labor that enriched European powers for centuries, played a significant role in shaping the social fabric of many British settlements, particularly in the Americas and the Caribbean. The legacy of slavery continues to cast a long shadow, influencing racial dynamics and social inequalities in these regions. Section 11. Conclusion. The enduring impact of British settlements. The British Empire's legacy is complex and multifaceted, marked by both exploitation and development, oppression and progress. The various types of settlements established by the British left an indelible mark on the world, shaping political boundaries, economic systems, and social structures that persist to this day. While the era of European colonialism has largely come to an end, The legacies of these settlements continue to influence global affairs. By studying the past, we gain insights into the present and equip ourselves to address the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.